you could have anything you wanted from God, what would it be? Think about it. Anything that you wanted, what would you ask for? King Solomon in the Old Testament had this very thing granted to him by God himself. We read the account in 1 Kings 3, verses 4 through 15. As a young kid, and I'm saying young, Solomon was only 12 years old when he became king. And he worshiped and he followed after God. And he approached God with a humble, sincere heart, prompting God to make this statement to Solomon. God said, "Ask for whatever you want from me, and I will give it to you." Man, that is the statement that dreams are made of. Let's go together and read that. 1 Kings chapter 3. 1 Kings chapter 3. So Solomon loved the Lord, walking in the statutes of David his father. Only he sacrificed and made offerings at the high places. And the king went to Gibeon to sacrifice there, for that was the great high place. Solomon used to offer 1,000 burnt offerings on that altar. At Gibeon, the Lord appeared to Solomon in a dream by night, and God said, "Ask what I shall give you." And Solomon said, "You have shown great and steadfast love to your servant David, my father, because he walked before you in faithfulness and righteousness and in uprightness and a heart toward you. And you have kept for him this great and steadfast love, and have given him a son to sit on his throne this day. And now, O Lord my God, you have made your servant king in place of David my father. Although I am but a little child, I do not know how to go out or come in. And your servant is in the midst of your people whom you have chosen, a great people, too many to be numbered or counted for multiplied." And this is what he said. This is the request. "Give your servant therefore an understanding mind to govern your people, that I may discern between good and evil. For who is able to govern these your great people?" And this is the cool part right here. It pleased the Lord that Solomon had asked for this, and God said to him, "Because you have asked this, and have not asked for yourself long life or riches or the life of your enemies, but have asked for yourself understanding to discern what is right, behold, I now do according to your word. Behold, I will give you a wise and discerning mind, so that none like you has been before you, and none like you shall arise after you." So basically, you'll be the most wise person ever to exist on the earth. "And I give also what you have not asked, both riches and honor, so that no other king shall compare with you all your days. And if you walk in my ways, keeping my statutes and my commandments as your father David walked, then I will lengthen your days." We read that Solomon responded by asking God for the wisdom to rule his people. Because of Solomon's honoring and humble request, God granted Solomon more wisdom than man had ever had. So I want to just tell you today, when you're faced with a situation, when you have the opportunity to ask God for anything, first and foremost, and I tell a lot of people this, ask for wisdom. You're facing a situation that you don't know how to get out of, or that you don't have the answer to, or that it seems like there is not an end. Ask for wisdom. We're reminded of this in the book of James. But then after that, God stepped it up. He gave Solomon more wealth than anyone had ever had, anyone would ever have. And I thought about this just the other day. I read where there were now over 8 people who were worth over $100 billion. This is the first time in the history that they've kept this kind of a poll. 8 people worth over $100 billion. Well, the Bible tells us that Solomon had more than that. Can you imagine? This wealth and wisdom was the talk of the world. It brought visitors from all around to Solomon's palace, and it won the hearts of the people. Well, that is where we learn a valuable lesson from Solomon. So first, ask for wisdom. But see, what happened was, as you read later into the book of 1 Kings, God's gift slowly became Solomon's trap. With fame and fortune came friends and corrupt influences that pulled Solomon away from God. Solomon began to build houses of worship to false gods. You see, he married women from all over the kingdoms. And so they all wanted a house of worship for their God. And so Solomon started to build these houses of worship that were not to his God. And this angered his God, our God. And slowly Solomon drifted away from his first love to the God of Israel. God is good. He's a good, good Father. And He desires to bless us with amazing gifts and talents when we humble ourselves and serve Him. See, what happens is the enemy seeks to use the gifts God gave them to drive a wedge between God and that person. I've known people like this throughout the church, throughout my time in church ministry. I see someone who is sold out for the Lord and they are willing to do anything God asks them to do. And then all of a sudden they become, blessed in a different way. They have more possessions. They start to accrue things and maybe their salary goes up and they start to have things to do on the weekends that take them away from worshiping the Lord with other believers. I want to encourage you to make sure that nothing comes between God and you. Nothing between you and God's relation and the relationship you have with God the Father. You see, God gives you blessings and God gives you talents to be used for His glory. What has God given you? What are you using that gift for? So how could that gift be used by the enemy to separate you from God? You need to pay attention. You see, in our home, we talk about that often, Tammy and I, and we have taught our kids, God has given us this opportunity. God has given us this time. God has given us this home. God has given us this finances so that we can give it to others to be used for His glory. And we ask, how can we share this today, Lord? How can we share this? How can we give it away? So I encourage you today, don't let the enemy turn you away from your purpose. Don't let him turn you away from what God has given you to do, the gifts that He's given you to be used for His glory and for His honor to build the church. I'm Pastor Sam Phipps. Be encouraged. Make a difference for Christ.